On August 9th, three families who volunteer at Colombo Dhamma Friends got together and completed their 7-day offering Hiyodana to the Mahasangha. Here is their story. It just feels like yesterday when one of the venerable monks at Colombo Dhamma Friends had a meeting online with two other volunteers and myself, discussing a rare opportunity to offer Hiyodana to the Mahasangha for 7 continuous days. But the opportunity came with the humble request. You need to prepare the food with your own hands, purchase new ingredients for all the dishes, and be at the temple at no later than 6 a.m. with your dishes ready in hand to be offered to the Mahasangha. I'm a 24-year-old girl who takes care of my grandmother and youngest brother while doing a full-time job and also cleaning and cooking for the household. I asked myself, can I bear to have another responsibility over my shoulders? Will I give up halfway if things get overwhelming for me? Would there be enough time for me to manage my full-time job and prepare a dana and take care of my household duties? As I was pondering these questions, the venerable monk, knowing my situation, asked me 3 times, "Daughter, will you be able to do the cooking for all 7 days?" And I replied with the same answer for all 3 times. Yes, I can do this. I will dedicate the whole of next week for the Supreme Buddha. At that particular point, I was afraid of what obstacles life would throw at me. I just got paid, and after paying all my bills, I was left with only 30,000 rupees, and I was wondering whether it all be enough to spend on transport, groceries, donation, and household expenses. I recall the first day when my grandmother and I went grocery shopping for the 7-day Hiyodana. I made sure she knew that I wanted to purchase the finest ingredients regardless the price. Upon purchasing the items, we headed to bed early and woke up the next morning to prepare the dishes for the dana. The first day of the dana was a bit rough since I don't have a car and had to rely on Uber. Time was not on my side. It was already 5:30 a.m. and I didn't have a ride, but then suddenly, out of the blue, a driver accepted my ride, but only to my surprise it was 15 minutes away. But 15 to 20 minutes is all it takes to reach the monastery. I had faith that we were going to make it on time. Once my ride arrived, I told him that I was in a hurry and had to step on it, and guess what? I was 1 minute early. 1 minute, my dear Dhamma friends, this is only the beginning. It was the first day and the first miracle. For the second day, I decided to ask the tuk driver, Anura, who I've known since I was little, to pick me up and drop me off at the temple every day at 5:40 a.m., while promising him that I'll pay him in full on the last day of the Hiyodana. My tuk driver may have just been a driver to everyone else, but to me, he was a blessing in disguise. Because of him, I was able to cook in peace of mind and not worry about reaching the monastery on time. His job may seem insignificant to others, but I share merits with him every day and tell him how I'm undoubtedly grateful for his service. A day before the last day of our Hiyodana, the venerable monks, out of compassion, arranged an Uttam Dhatun Vahanse Vandana. We were given the rare opportunity to decorate and worship the great relics of our true and fearless teacher of all 3 worlds, the Supreme Buddha. I spoke to the monks of Colombo Dhamma Friends in hopes of seeking permission to offer the 3 gemstones to the relics of the Supreme Buddha, which they wholeheartedly accepted. I immediately decided to head out and shop for the tray, but it was only then I realized that I only had 770 rupees in my account. It was barely enough for transport, the tray, and for me and my family to survive for the next 3 weeks. Nevertheless, this opportunity was 1 in a million. I thought, and just as I did, my grandma approached me with great news, saying that my uncle has decided to cover the whole payment I owed to the tuk driver, Anura. I was over the moon, and Achi handed me way more money than I expected, but it was not enough for me to purchase the tray, so I borrowed money from Achi and purchased a beautiful gift bag to offer Pirikura for the Mahasangha for the next morning, jasmine flowers, and then went tray hunting. My eyes were filled with joy after seeing the beautiful gold tray, but upon discovering the price of the tray, my heart sank because it was more than I could afford. But I thought to myself that I'm going to buy it either way and pay Achi the money back when I get my next salary. My heart was throbbing as I couldn't wait to get to the temple and cover the tree with sweet scented jasmine flowers while having the gemstones placed in the center of the tray. I was only 10 minutes away from the temple, and on the way I kept thinking of what a great day it has been since I woke up early to offer dana to the Mahasangha. And here I am on the way to make yet another offering, but this time to the relics of the Supreme Buddha. I couldn't help but think how fortunate I was, yet on the other hand, I sacrificed all the money I had to take care of my family and dedicate it to the Triple Gem. To make matters worse, I just found out that my brother ran out of his medication, a medication needed for a condition he suffers from called epilepsy, which cost about 5,000 rupees a month. A medication he cannot afford to miss, as that's what helps him keep his seizures at bay. I have 3 more weeks to go till my payday, and at the same time I have ran out of groceries at home, I have no mode of transportation, I have debts to pay, and all I have is 770 rupees in my bank account. I heard my phone ring. It was a message from my dad. I opened the message and I cried and cried silently. 23,000 rupees had been deposited into my account. My dad, my savior, and the man who I'm proud to call Tata, has deposited me money after 5 months without knowing the hardships I was facing. The amount may seem so little to some, but to me it felt as I won the lottery. I didn't know if I was supposed to feel happy or sad. Happy because of him, my family, and I could look forward to our next meal. Sad because I know he's going through way too many problems with his business because of the whole COVID situation, which was why he couldn't send me a penny for the past 5 months. Few minutes later, I arrived at the temple. I was so happy that I couldn't contain my excitement, but before I entered, I shared my merits with my ever so trustworthy and humble truck driver, Chaminda. I placed the box of gems on the newly purchased tray and told him that I'm offering this to the relics of the Supreme Buddha. He rejoiced in my merits, and I made my way towards the Dharmashala to decorate the tray with sweet scented jasmine flowers, which is something I learned after my Kalyanamitta Shanila took me on a trip to the Mahamaunava Udupila monastery. We make our own miracles. It was the thought that crossed my mind as I kneeled and worshipped the great teacher, the Supreme Buddha's relics. In the span of just a few hours before setting foot to the temple, I was trying to figure out a way to pay my debts, provide my family's next meal, and my brother's medication. But here I am, in front of the relics of the Supreme Buddha, with money to pay my achi back for the tray and the gift bags, money to feed and take care of my family, money to pay my truck driver Anura and Chaminda, and money to buy my brother's medication. I broke down into tears and realized that I was debt-free. The 7-day Heel Dana for me taught me more than just offering dana to the Mahasangha. It taught me to stay strong whenever my faith was being challenged. It taught me the gift of giving. It taught me to be humble, resilient, to have hope, and the list goes on. I remember during the last few days of the Heel Dana, I would bump into my Kalyanamitta Shanila. She too was a miracle before my eyes, who would without second guessing offer me a ride home whenever she met me. She didn't know then, but I hope she does now, that both of the rides she offered me helped me to save up some money for the next ride whenever my truck driver, Anura, was unable to drop me home. And of course, Mandivaya, who also voluntarily decided to drop my family and myself home last Saturday evening after an eventful day. Last but not least, Kavindumalli, for being such a kind soul. He'd always appear out of nowhere and help pick up all the leaves that I have set aside to throw out after sweeping the monastery. Some of you may be wondering as to why I decided to hide all my pain while participating in the 7-day Heel Dana. It's because it was never pain. To me, pain would be if I lost a limb tomorrow. become blind or deaf the next day, or fall extremely ill to the point where I'd have to stay back and not participate in doing meritorious deeds. How painful is that? So my dear Dhamma friends, before I wrap up my story, I would like to share merits with Pindwat Lokuswamin Wahansa and all the monks and nuns in the world. I'd also like to share merits with my parents for never giving up on me and always bringing out the best in me. And last but not least, the volunteers at Colombo Dhamma Friends for being great role models for me. May everyone rejoice in this merit, and may this merit help us all one day to realize the supreme bliss of Nibbana in this Gautama Buddha's dispensation. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.